Call the Tuesday, March 10th, 2020 meeting of the Environment Committee to order. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. And then we have the approval of the minutes from the February 25th, 2020 meeting.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second. Nudged him, he wouldn't do it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Next up is the consent agenda. We've got comprehensive plan and comprehensive sewer plan approvals for White Bear Township, Rogers, and Forest Lake. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda is approved. Next up, we have the joint powers agreement with Minnesota Pollution Control Agency for the watershed outlet monitoring program. That's agenda item 2020-99, same week. Judy,
Thank you.
welcome.
So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm here to get approval for us to negotiate the agreement with the PCA, Pollution Control Agency, for the joint powers agreement for the watershed outlet monitoring program. I have a little bit of history. So we monitored about 22 sites, stream sites a year, in addition to the lake and river sampling that we do, as we talked to you about last year. Of these 22 sites, some of them are funded by the Pollution Control Agency, and that program started in 1998, where we've been getting funding from them since then. So we receive sites or money for 6 stream sites right now through this agreement with the PCA. Basically, they're getting clean water funds that they're passing through to us to do this monitoring for these stream sites. And as I mentioned, this is an amendment to the current contract. The current contract actually goes through March of this year, where we were awarded $300,000 to do the monitoring for the last 2 years. So this will be taking it to the next 2 years, where we're getting an additional $238,500 to the agreement, and that will then extend the contract out to March of 2022. So what the changes with this contract are, we're dropping from 7 stream sites to 6 stream sites, so we're getting a little bit less money. We had to drop one of the stream sites. We will be picking up that stream site in our WAMP 1 program, but it will be out of the WAMP 2 contract with the PCA. But we're also getting money for 3 of our lake sites that we'll be sampling through this effort. This is just a map that shows the location of the stream sites. Will be sampling the Rum, the Vermilion River, the Cannon River, Bassett Creek, the Crow River, and Purgatory Creek, as well as 3 lakes, Fish, Rice, and Pearsons. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council authorize its regional administrator to negotiate and execute an amendment to contract 17G000 with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to extend the termination date to 2022 and to accept clean water funds from the Minnesota legislature in the amount of $238,500.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing no questions, do we have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Next is item 2020-100, the 2020 odor control media procurement contract, 16P361.
Moved right along. Yep. Almost missed it.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Adam Gordon. I'm the Interceptor Engineering Manager, and today I have with me,
Bert Tracy, the Interceptor Services Business Unit Manager.
and we're here to present 2 business items that are very closely related. But the first one is for odor control media procurement, contract 19P361. So within our Interceptor system, we have we use carbon odor control media. We use it at about 20 major sites throughout the system, as you can see here. And then we also use at many smaller sites. Actually, it's hard to get a handle on it, but it's literally hundreds of sites where we have canisters that are full of media. They're either placed in street situations or at lift stations where we vent out odorous air, and that corrects the odorous air. And it helps maintain our customer level service of being a good neighbor by addressing those odors. We went out for a contract with basically 10 bid items that represent the different types of media, different types of carbon odor control that we use throughout the system. So these odors come in, or these carbon media comes in different blends. Some are have different additives to it, all to address the particular odor airstreams that we find throughout our entire system. We took a review of the past and looked at what types of carbon we've been using and what types of carbon we've been using for the past year. And we've come up with a single solicitation, competitive solicitation. And this was done as an effort to reduce the amount of single, smaller competitive solicitations that we have throughout the year. So this is one of the first times we come up with a full year's worth of carbon media into a single award. And this allows us to better respond. So now that we have a contract in place, the proposed contract in place for the whole year, it'll be easier to get that media onto site and be able to put it in the right place at the right time without having to go through a solicitation process each time we're changing out media at any particular site. So 2 bids were received on the 10 line items that were bid individually. PureFill Inc. was the lowest bid, lowest responsive and responsible bidder for items 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 10. Total Mechanical Services was the lowest responsive responsible bidder for line items 4, 5, 7, and 8. And so tonight, our proposed action that we'd like to ask is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes purchase of odor control media, items 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, and 10 from PureFill Inc. in the amount of $832,940, and odor control media items 4, 5, 7, and 8 from Total Mechanical Services Inc. in the amount of $732,000 for a 2020 odor control media procurement contract 19P 361. At this point, I can take questions.
Are there any questions? Mr. Zarin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question I have is, are there not very many businesses that provide this service or the medium?
Well, we solicited bids from a number of companies, and these were the 2 that came back. Because of our variety of carbon that we've requested, it does thin down how many people respond. But we need the variety because each system has a little bit different odorous compounds. When we remove the H2S, then the mercaptans are left over, and that's just kind of what you're going to call the entourage of odors that come out when you remove the H2S. So we need to have the variety of blends in order to handle different situations at different odor control units.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? And we would be in need of a motion to approve the staff recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. You guys staying up for the next one?
We're here.
So the next,
next business item, item 2020-101, is for the sole source acquisition of goods and services from Evoqua Water Technologies Incorporated. On the site, you can see a map of our system, and we have approximately 15 sites that we currently use nitrate salts which goes by the name of bioxide from Evoqua. We either inject it to wet wells or force mains or gravity interceptors. And what it does is it inhibits the production of hydrogen sulfide and thus reducing odors and also corrosion, particularly to concrete, sewer pipe, and other materials that are corrodable downstream. And thus also, and this as to it helps us maintain our customer level of service of being a good neighbor by reducing odors. So, like I said, Evoqua, who's our current vendor, has been for a number of years. They have provided to us in the past years not only delivery of nitrate, salt, or bioxide to each of the 15 sites, but they monitor, they deliver the product, they maintain the equipment, they own the equipment, the pumps, tanks, piping, and controls, and they monitor the feed rates, and they provide reporting back to us on how much bioxide is being used. We conducted a business case evaluation this past year to look at how we can more competitively bid out chemical and professional services for providing nitrate salts into our system. And our staff recommendation was that we procure the equipment, the tanks, the delivery systems, the controls, and the pumps, so that we can competitively bid, because there are now, it used to be that bioxide was a proprietary chemical. It no longer is, and there is an opportunity here to competitively bid it out to a number of different vendors. On January 31st, our procurement department approved a 3-month extension to our current purchase authorization until April 30th, 2020, so that we can continue to use bioxide. And in the meantime, we are currently putting together our planning and our acquisition for equipment to deliver nitrate salts to our system. But in the interim, it's going to take approximately a year to get to the point where we can solicit a competitive or solicit competitively for nitrate salts. We would like to continue with the sole source procurement and essentially extend the acquisition to Evoqua Water Technologies approximately a year. So our proposed action tonight is that the Metropolitan Council authorizes award, negotiation, and execution of a sole source contract with Evoqua Water Technologies not to exceed $2.6 million to provide bulk chemicals and services for odor and corrosion control, and to execute a sole source contract for approximately 12 months to allow time for purchasing of storage tanks, delivery systems, pumps, piping, and controls, and to develop a competitive solicitation. And so at this point, I can take some questions.
Are there any questions? And we would be in need of a motion to approve the proposed action.
So moved.
We have a motion by Zarin and a second by Sterner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So all we have left is the general manager's report.
Looks like a night when I should have a long report. But actually, will be fairly brief. I know you're all watching the news on the COVID-19 and following that. And we are doing our best as a council, make sure that employees are aware of the status and how we're handling that. And of course, prevention is the key. Within ES, our big concern will be if we get several employees sick at the same time, we have to have uninterrupted service of our wastewater facilities. So we did some pretty extensive planning when the pandemic or the bird flu was a concern several years ago But we've got that dusted off, and we're looking at things that we need to do to be ready if that were to happen for us. But if our prevention works, maybe we won't have to go that far.
Madam Chair, what about the potential of both the COVID-19 and flood season? And the stressors of both overlapping?
Essentially, if we were in a flood situation, there are some facilities that we would have that additional concern about coverage. I think that we'd have to watch closely and see if we were going to be potentially not having enough to cover the window of time. So at the Metropolitan in particular, Blue Lake, where we need to keep pumps running to get the flow out. But that would be an one that we'd have to pay close attention to.
Well, and if flooding gets really bad, then we just leave people there, so they would be quarantined anyway. Did you have another question, Councilmember Vento?
I don't know how this information evolves over the course of late winter, early spring, but what kind of predictions are there for flood season? Has there been anything yet?
So the latest I've heard, and I don't have numbers in my head, the site that we looked at is likely that we'll see some, but how severe, it's kind of a guess at this point because it depends upon what the weather does. But with the heavy saturation of the ground from last fall, all the predictors are saying be ready for some high flows. And we've activated our flood crew is making sure we'll be ready. So.
Any other questions?
Yeah, if you will, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask a question in regards to, keep thinking, the added train, but that's not the verbiage I want to use. The expansion of the burner at the plant. Where are we at with that in that process? Where does that sit?
So I'm going to ask Janine if she'll give us a quick update on that. Is your question in reference to will it be affected by flood or just in general where?
I'm sure that as long as the wall holds up, it won't be affected by a flood. I'm just wondering where we are in the process of engineering and how far out is that project and the planning and how it's going.
Ms. Clancy?
Madam Chair and Councilmember Zarin, we are in the permitting phase. So in late December of last year, Council authorized an owner's agent contract with Black & Veatch. That was a competitive process. We've initiated the team process, and we are in the process now of beginning the preliminary design and permitting work. That will take us some time with construction plan for 2022
Okay.
through 2025 for the construction of the fourth, and then rehabilitation of incinerators 1, 2, and 3 in sequence right after that. So we've got a little ways to go at this point, but we're working diligently on it.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Anything else? There being no further business to come before us, the meeting is adjourned.